Imagine waking up and realizing your child's school, your mother's hospital, and the newspaper you trust were once calibrated by the same invisible hand. This isn't theory, it's inheritance. Rockefeller. The name hits like iron on concrete. Old, inevitable, still echoing in your routine. The class bell, the clinic protocol, the headline that lines up with the advertiser. Coincidence, or a script already written? In 1911, the man who controlled 90% of the refineries was forced to break up the empire, but not the method. And the method is simple and brutal. Whoever bankrolls sets the rules. When you control the rules, the game feels natural. If that already stings, good. Now I'll validate the promise with dates, money, and names that show why the title isn't exaggeration. It's a diagnosis. 1911. The Supreme Court breaks Standard Oil into 34 pieces. Paradoxically, the shares make John D. Rockefeller even richer. 1913. The Rockefeller Foundation is born. Charity as social architecture. Money with GPS. Dollars march into universities, education boards, laboratories, hospitals. Places that don't just reflect society, they design it. 2 years earlier, 1910, the Flexner Report rewires medical education and shutters entire schools. School modernization funds push standardization, serial tests, factory logic. These aren't rumors. They're receipts, stamped and archived. The villain in the headlines learns a softer weapon, generosity that pays dividends in influence. Philanthropy doesn't cleanse power, it refines it. Give $1, choose a direction. Endow a chair, design a curriculum, fund a lab, define the question. Sponsor a newsroom, narrow the story. Reputation can burn while reach multiplies in boardrooms, where policy is written in the quiet language of budgets. A ribbon is cut in daylight. A guideline shifts in the shade. Swap the fist for an open hand and doors glide open. Access granted. And once inside, a blueprint unfolds. Education, medicine, media, each room tuned to the same frequency. Listen to the classroom. The bell doesn't just ring, it stamps time. Rows of desks standardize posture and thought. You learn to raise your hand, not your voice. To wait for permission. To color inside the lines because the lines are the lesson. Tests roll by like conveyor belts. Memorize, regurgitate, forget, repeat. Standardization sounds harmless until you realize it standardizes desire. The curriculum is efficient at one thing, manufacturing predictability. Doubt is filed as distraction, curiosity as extra credit. Teachers, exhausted and boxed in by targets, become involuntary foremen in a factory they didn't build. Now, the white coat. The scalpel cuts, but the curriculum decides where the blade goes. The Flexner overhaul crowns a new canon. Protocols, evidence hierarchies, prescriptions, preferably for something that can be patented. Botany slides off the table. Chemistry takes the chair. Herbal lore becomes cautionary tale. Pharmacology gets a marching band. Grants follow pipelines, not gardens. If a remedy grows wild, who owns it? If a molecule is tweaked in a lab, who profits? Clinics that don't fit the template go dark. Standard of care hardens from suggestion to scripture. Preventive living gets a paragraph. Lifestyle, a footnote. Curiosity, a raised eyebrow. Yet the miracles remain real. Anesthesia, antibiotics, vaccines, all folded into a system that quietly manages what questions are worth asking. Follow the fumes and the funds. A barrel cracks, fractions split, leftovers become ideas. Naphtha walks into a lab and leaves with a patent. Prevention is cheap and stubborn. It doesn't scale like a product, but a pill you can tweak and own sings a profit area. The refinery's logic migrates into medicine. Extract, refine, brand, repeat. A patient isn't cured. A customer is retained. Every refill is a cash register in a white coat, a subscription disguised as a prescription. If that feels mechanical, look up. The thermostat sits in the room that budgets knowledge itself. Who pays frames the question. Who advertises edits the headline. Research doesn't begin with curiosity. It begins with a grant proposal promising impact. Journals speak the dialect of donors. Citations sandbag favored theories. Newsrooms breathe through ad ventilators, and every breath costs neutrality. Call something evidence-based and dissent becomes a PR problem. Therapies without sponsors are quaint. Those with budgets become consensus. Not a hidden cabal, an alignment of incentives humming like a refrigerator until you finally hear it. The same tide that raises one idea drowns another without leaving fingerprints. Meanwhile, the empire after the empire changes outfits. The trust shatters into 34 pieces. The mirror recomposes the face. New logos, new stationery, same playbook. Standard becomes Exxon, becomes Chevron, merges, spins off, realigns. Courtrooms force the breakup. Markets stitch fragments into hydras. You don't need a throne when you own pipelines, patents, distribution, and calendars. A consent decree at noon. A sponsorship by 4. Legal loss, logistical win, if you control the choke points. Continuity is a feature, not a bug. This picture took time to develop. Archives with brittle edges, court opinions that smell like dust and ink, foundation reports with cheerful fonts and footnotes that bite. 19 closes schools. 1911 breaks a monopoly and mints a fortune. 1913 funds the future one committee at a time. A grant opens a lab trains a cohort staffs boards. Boards draft guidelines. Guidelines sculpt reimbursements. Reimbursements dictate what clinicians can actually do. No single smoking gun, an armory of legal ones. The value isn't the drama, it's the pattern. Now map that pattern onto your Tuesday. Your kid's bell rings at 7:30, time discipline dressed as routine. At noon, the clinic portal pings. Your care pathway is ready. The intake questions feel familiar because HR taught you to answer them at work. Later, your feed serves a health explainer sharing a sponsor with the pamphlets in the waiting room. Homework rubrics mirror performance reviews. Wellness becomes a KPI. Headlines echo press releases in slightly fancier clothes. No laws broken. A life shaped. You're nudged, not ordered. Coached, not coerced. Yet the lanes are drawn for you. So what do? Start small, start sharp. Before the abstract, ask who funded the study. Read methods like contracts. In your kid's backpack, don't just chase grades. Train the muscle of why until it flexes on its own. In the exam room, ask for options, trade-offs, timelines. Put sleep, food, movement, and stress on the same table as scripts. In media, diversify on purpose. If every source agrees, you're probably reading the same sponsor in different suits. Spend attention like money, and money like a vote. Trace local incentives, school boards, hospital boards, newsroom ownership, and notice where a little pressure moves the dial. Here's the revelation. The greatest trick wasn't amassing wealth. It was normalizing a world that runs on it. The school bell, the protocol, the headline, they feel like weather because someone taught you not to notice the climate. But once you see the blueprint, you can stop mistaking the room for the world. And the spark? Ask yourself one question before you scroll away. If the music you've been dancing to was chosen a century ago, who gets to pick the next song? You or the donor behind the curtain? If you're ready to pull more threads like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. Around here, we show what hides behind great fortunes.